You want to start us off? Do you want me to start us off? I know we just literally had this. You said you were gonna do it, then I was like, oh, you want me to? Okay.
Yeah, I'll start it off. Let's see. All right, let's start it. Wait.
No, it's really good. I'm so sorry.
No. I'm laughing anyway because I don't know. I'm laughing. Well, welcome to the Token Podcast. You got two Black folks exploring the token Negroes in film and television.
Okay, I like that.
You like
That was good. What is the token, Stephen? Or how we define token? Ooh, how we define token?
That's a good question, actually. I think.
Would you think it was gonna be a bad question? You know what? That was actually a good question. I'm surprised by that.
No, I think for our purposes, at least the way I'm looking at it, is that I think the token Black person specifically in this case is the one that is there, that you expect to be there in modern films because for diversity reasons, but ideally there for story reasons because they're helping progress the story, right?
Yeah.
But that isn't always the case. So
I feel like the ideal for them to be there for story is probably the ideal is for me as a viewer, as a Black viewer. I'm hoping that like this Black person isn't just there because you needed the quota filled.
Yeah, right.
It's a diverse movie. You saw that one Black person. It's like, oh.
I know. It's diversity, and that's the token. And I love it because there are shows and TV and movies that frequently kind of outwardly acknowledge that, right? South Park has the one Black character. His name is Token, right?
Right.
And you got that in a lot of other shows, cartoons, things like that, where it's obvious because we all know it's something that exists. And I think the end goal is to have that character be able to stand on their own and ideally also be the lead protagonist in a lot of these forms of media that we've got now. And we're marching towards it. We're definitely not all the way there yet, but no. There's the token character in most modern TV and film that you see, and it is going to be fun to go through today's token character with our film of the week, 10 Things I Hate About You.
10 Things I Hate About You! Yay! Literally, as I was rewatching it, like 13-year-old me was like freaking out. I saw this in theaters, by the way.
You know what? I did too, actually. I can't front. I did too. And I remember walking out having a good time. Like, I thought it was very funny. And I still think it's very funny. There's a lot of stuff now that I'm like, oh, that's kind of problematic, or that's, or I'm like, oh, that was really cheesy and corny. But you look through a lot of that when you're about the same age as the characters in the film and you're trying to watch it to see yourself in there, you know?
But honestly, I was impressed by how much it like stood. Like, I was like, this is a well-written, like, script. The comedy I thought was really good. I think, maybe because, like, the filmmakers are probably older than the age group, but the music choices were great. They had, like, great music.
And it's funny because I noticed that they had Safe Ferris was the band for their prom and, like, all the background music. They had, he's dropping, like, Bikini Kill and all this, and
you got Biggie in it. Like,
yeah, they had the hip hop in there too, which I thought was funny, and I had some notes about that too. But and even the teacher that's rapping, right? So
yes,
they were surprisingly modern for their time, and I guess it's a testament to the writers and the director for what they were going for, because the movie itself to me was always kind of like that Riot Girl genre, you know, with the three R's, Riot Girls, which was like a very kind of post-punk, like a post-punk subculture that developed within, like, post-punk feminist subculture.
You better educate me, because this is new. I'm listening.
You ever heard of Riot Girls?
Well, yes, but not in the sense of like film.
Well, to me, I think that's what this very much, I don't know that, I can't say that that's what the filmmakers actually were specifically going after, but to me, that is very much what they achieved, especially because the bands they mentioned, along with, I mean, there was a very ska aesthetic to it too, right? A lot of the bands they had were ska at the time, ska bands, which like white ska bands came to a lot of prominence after No Doubt got so big, right? But the whole Riot Girl thing is this like post-punk feminist subculture driven by a lot of these bands like that would play, I say kind of, I guess, Lilith Fair and some of those other type of concerts.
Yes.
But also it was just very much like a newer feminism that was pretty much representative to me with Julia Stiles' character the entire movie. Like, she doesn't give a fuck about what anybody thinks.
Right.
She's doing it for herself. And I was actually really impressed with how much they were able to build that into her character and still have this, like, and still make it relevant to the story. It gave her proper reason for acting the way she did and for making the decision she did, which is great. Like, that's what you want in your protagonist. So,
but Steven, this is not about Julia Stiles.
That's right.
This is about, is it Chastity?
Yeah, Chastity.
Chastity, played by the one and only Gabrielle Union. What is Chastity's story?
That's the question.
And
well, so the thing is, it's funny because this is it's an original film that's an adaptation, right?
Right.
From
Taming of the
Shrew, which is like 1590 or something. And the funniest part I noticed was that when doing some research on it was that it's Taming of the Shrew is also one of the other Taming of the Shrew adaptations. Also stars Gabrielle as the protagonist.
Which one?
Which is Deliver Us from Eva.
Oh my gosh!
And that was a Taming of the Shrew adaptation too. And I was like, oh, how did I miss that? And so he went from being the secondary, being the token, to actually being the protagonist in this other one. So it's funny. We actually should do a comparison on them. That might have to be the next one.
That I didn't think about that. I mean, I didn't know that, but that makes so much sense.
Yeah, it didn't even click to me either until I started looking it up, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, that is a Taming of the Shrew adaptation too.
The same thing.
But with Elo, her and Elo. Yeah,
that's funny.
It's crazy, right?
That's funny.
But in this case, she's just the token. So, which some movies do a good job of giving the token their own
storyline,
agency,
and
their own background. This one, not as much. They do have Black characters in 10 Things I Hate About You, but they are pretty much relegated to that token spot.
So I counted how many scenes she's in. 6.
6. Sounds about right.
She's in 6 scenes. She's in the beginning of the film when you first meet God, what's I wrote their names down. It's so funny. It's Kat and what's her sister's name?
Bianca.
So when you meet Bianca, she's with Bianca for 2 scenes. Right. Then you see her again right before they go to the party at the house. Then you see her at the party, and then you see her at prom. Those are like the only 3 moments. I think one of the things when I was watching it was just trying to see like what is her personality. And I first off want to give Gabrielle Union her flowers because she did so much acting without saying a word.
She really did.
She did a lot of non-word acting.
She really did. She conveyed, and I noticed that because each scene she was in, she conveyed a lot of emotion with just her face.
Yep.
Where you can tell what her character's personality is supposed to be. In this case, kind of the stuck-up popular girl, with the attitude.
Always an attitude. Really
didn't even have a whole lot of lines, but she did convey a lot with her face.
She had a lot of face expression. She was telling it read to me like she read the script and realized she didn't have that many lines. And she was like, okay, I'm going to just like any moment I'm in, I'm going to make sure I'm telling a story still with like not having any words. Because she had none. She had no words.
She didn't have a whole lot at all. And it's interesting because that I guess will lead me to the question of, would swapping her character, her token character with just a character of another race even make a difference for this, right? And Yeah, exactly.
No.
My answer would be no.
I do feel like though they tried to make her a villain weirdly.
Well, her character ultimately does become kind of a villain, right? If you're following the Bianca and Kat as the protagonists or the lead good guys, her character, because she, spoiler alert if you haven't seen the movie, right? She betrays her kind of her trust and her friendship when she goes off with the pretty boy Joey or whatever. After at the party, he like Joey's dropping off at home, and then they have that scene on the track too when they're practicing with the bows and arrows, and she tells
Oh,
her that the only reason he went out with you anyway, blah blah blah, right? So that's where like I think kind of
oh,
completes her
no.
arc as a villain.
She's not. She is in that bow and arrow scene, but she just. I think she only takes like the arrow out of the guy. But when she says the whole confession, like, he only went out with you because he wanted to have sex with you. That was at prom.
Oh, that's right. That was at prom.
It was in the bathroom at prom. But I don't know. I haven't read the original play. Like, I think if I have read it, it was like in high school, and I don't remember. But I will say, like, watching the film, like the film makes out the villains to be Joey and to be her. Like, those are the two negative like characters. But honestly, like I feel like why aren't we really, the villain is really Bianca. I feel like the real villain is Bianca and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And this is why. Because
Oh yeah.
because the reason why they're the actual villains is because the whole reason this all started is because Bianca told Joseph's character, hey, like, you need to do this so that my sister, so I can go out with you, right? And so then he hires, he talks to homeboy, who then talks to the other guy to be the money, because Joey really is just a pawn. All he is the money. He's the only reason he ever, quote unquote, became a part of this plan is because they brought him into it. So, like, he's villain, but, like, he didn't start it. Really, Bianca and Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character started it.
Yeah, they are the ones that incite the entire thing. They're the ones that kickstart the ball.
The whole reason it even happens is because of them. And everyone else is just basically getting, like, played by them. Like, Joseph Gordon-Levitt brings on Joey's character because he has money. And then he's the one that found not Joseph Garrett, Heath Ledger's character.
Yeah.
So, like, and there's never, I noticed, I was like, there's never like a moment where she's like, you're the one that played me. Like, you're my sister and you're the one that started all this. No one even knew this whole thing about the dating until Bianca started it. But, like, then we have, like, Gabrielle Union, who also, can I say the word bitch was said so much in this film.
It really was. Like,
they were passing out
over and over.
They were passing out bitch like candy in this movie.
They were really, everybody, the man, the woman, everybody.
Everyone was a bitch. Like, when Gabrielle Union went off with homeboy, who I would like to point out, that girl didn't even like. She didn't even like him. Like,
Bianca
didn't like Joey. So when they were at the party, she was like, like, she never even liked him. And then Gabrielle Union,
she liked the idea of him.
She totally did. But Gabrielle Union saw a window. Okay, I'm going to stand up for this character. She saw a window because she was always second fiddle. She's always second fiddle, right? At the beginning, she's asking this girl, Bianca, advice and, like, going to her. Like, she's like, they're, like, both dumb, but she's, like, the dumber of the two. And it's like, that's how they set her up. To me, in the very beginning, they set her up as, like, the dumber of the two. So I feel like she is not a villain. I don't care what Shakespeare's play says. I know in this movie, when I watched it, the villain is Bianca and Joey. No, Bianca and Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character.
That's an interesting pitch. I like that. That is an interesting pitch. Cameron James, though. I think, you know what, and honestly, from what I remember about the play, which has been a very long time, they actually could have been pitched more as the villains, because they're kind of the ones that set the machinations in motion. So I think it could actually, that you may be right, that may be more clear in the play, to be honest. I wouldn't have pegged them personally as the villains in this, but I see exactly what you're saying, because really they're basically playing chess. They're playing chess. Am I freezing? Can you hear me now?
I hear you now. Yeah.
They're playing chess. Okay, see, it's probably my computer. They're playing chess, and everybody else is just really pawns. and they're playing chess for their own reasons. Bianca wants to be able to date, and Patrick wants to be able to date Bianca.
I'm
So
into
in
I'm
order
into
for
this
that to
hand
happen,
movement. This is good.
you're like,
I
I'm
see the
trying to,
pieces,
because
but they're the masterminds, right?
yeah, they are. So that's a really good point. They set it in motion, and they are the ones trying to constantly rearrange the board so whatever, so it works out in their favor, and they make them lovable, which help. I mean, I guess I'd say Cameron, Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, is a little more lovable than Bianca, but I think that's because they make Bianca very kind of vapid and selfish, like the guy says, right? Like the nerdy dude.
I know who you're
What's
talking
his,
about. Joseph Gordon-Levitt's best friend at the beginning.
yeah, the one that's introducing him to the world,
Right.
Michael Ekman or whatever. Yeah, he basically, like, he even says himself, you know, she's vapid and you're self-centered or whatever, and everybody's Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, Cameron, is like no, how can you say that? But I mean, that kind of is her character's art, and I noticed that scene actually when, or her character's personality, but I noticed that scene when he's introducing them, like at the end of her conversation with the token character, Gabrielle Union's character,
Yep.
Chastity, her conversation with her, she's like saying, "Oh, you're not gonna see." I see it like doing this, having this, and having a product bag, and she's like, "Well, I don't know if I see it that way." She's like, "That's because you don't have a product bag." I'm like, "Okay, so what are you really saying there?" Like, I get it's a joke,
Mm-hmm.
but having the token black character be told, you don't understand that because you don't have this a very expensive product bag. Otherwise, you would understand the reference, right? And given the school that they're at, is obviously a very very wealthy
Rich.
school
Yeah.
in the first place. But the one of like three black people at the school, and she's like, "Oh, you don't have it. Have this very expensive bag. That's why you don't get it." It's obviously it belies like underlying issues and tones with race and income and things like that too.
Well,
So
I even think beauty, and maybe this is maybe because I'm a black woman. I think the thing that bothered me the most, no offense to the actress who played Bianca, but she is no Gabrielle Union. She's not even a Julia Stiles. I was
for
because the way that she's like described constantly, and I know, well, here's the thing: when you cast, you obviously are casting thinking this person has every quality of the main character, right? And she's constantly described as like beautiful and like innocent and like just so like she's described as a like timeless beauty and like this gorgeous thing and all of this, and it's like, I'm sorry, but she is very basic white woman. That's how I feel. Maybe as a maybe because I see her like that, because as a black one, because I look at Julia Stiles and I think Julia Stiles is actually more interesting looking than the girl that played Bianca. The cat is more interesting looking as a sister than Bianca to me, and I think she's not more interesting looking or beautiful than Gabrielle Union. So like, to me as a black woman watching this, it's also playing to the beauty thing. It's like, she's so beautiful, she's this, she's that, and she's this girl that kind of really actually talks down to to Chastity, Gabrielle Union's character, the token. Like
oh,
you
she
said, like
doesn't.
the setup is like Gabrielle is not as good as her, or like she's the lower of the two in the food chain. Because like whenever they went to the prom, like you see Gabrielle Union's character goes, "Oh, you think you were the only sophomore that was invited?" So what that, to me, what that signified was that like she's always the one, she's always picking, she's always chosen. And it's like this white girl that's just like elevated, and she's not that pretty to me. I'm sorry.
She is a very, very basic in comparison with the other characters that are the other female leads for sure, or other female characters. And I think it's really a testament of, I mean, that's kind of a reflection of America in general, right? With especially given culture and popular culture, like America traditionally will put the more boring white character ahead of any minority character that is more fascinating, right? Um, just because the Western ideal of that blonde-haired, blue-eyed, perfect person, the all-American hero or the blonde hair, blue eyed Jesus, like all that. Everything else is secondary to that, right? Even if that secondary is actually more intelligent or more fascinating or more pretty or more physically able or more whatever, it still doesn't matter because you're going to play second fiddle to the blonde hair, blue eyed, like star, right?
And yeah, she's very second fiddle.
And so it's funny you mention that actually, because that is very much this Western ideal that we have seen repeatedly, and why people are and that leads to for sure issues why people buy skin lightening creams and all sorts of other shit like that too. But with the token, at least in this specific instance, you can see that she still maintained like her dignity and maintained her sense of like, you're not the only one here. Like I'm doing things for me,
Mm-hmm.
right?
But they
So
wanted to make her out to be, as the movie would say, a bitch. Which
yeah,
is,
for sure.
I don't know. I just don't. I guess you don't go. Okay. So you probably shouldn't leave your friend alone at the party if you drove her. That wasn't probably a great friend choice, I will say.
No,
but yeah,
all.
but the reason why I did that whole pitch for like the real villains is because I feel like they tried to make her a villain, and I don't actually see, and it just feels kind of forced to me. I would even say it was kind of like a weird character shift, because like in the beginning she's like second fiddle, right? Like you said, she's asking the girl about, I don't have a purse, so what does that mean? Like she plays second fiddle to this character. Then she's like super excited to go to this party with this character, and then all of a sudden at the party there's like this switch. You actually don't even see her be quote unquote bitchy or attitudey until the party. Like
yeah.
It wasn't a lot of scenes, but like it's at the party where she became like snarky, where she became like and all that. Yeah, and it's so funny because I tried to think like how much of this was like race, how much of this was just bad character like development, or like throwaway the movie. Like I love the movie. I think the movie's strong overall. I think it's a great movie, but
Same.
we are trying to pay attention to like what was the role given to the one black character. And then okay, so then let's go into this. What do you think would be different? Because would you agree the lead character is Julia Stiles?
Right. She's the primary protagonist. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Sure.
So what do you think would be the big difference, if there was a difference, if the lead character was black? If Julia Stiles is black and that main family was black and everyone around them was whatever race?
So I think the primary difference would be a much more noticeable effect that privilege plays, right? Even if they all have the same amount of money, you just swap the characters or swap the actors. Like a lot of the stuff that Julia Stiles' protagonist does would get you in so much more trouble if we were, and even
Oh
if it's a
my
rom-com and
gosh.
successful, like her character would get in so much more trouble doing the same thing as a black girl, right? Like I noticed that like she's backing into Joey's car when he parks behind her at the record store, right? But like backing in this dude's car as a black girl, the cops are gonna be called, right? If nothing else, he's gonna call her like a black bitch, and then uh hands are gonna get thrown, right?
Yeah. No, she would have been all
And
kinds of black
so,
bitch.
and so, so,
All kinds of black bitch. The way that they
so,
were throwing out bitch in that movie,
yeah, you just throw black
they
in front of it, yeah, by
oh
far.
my gosh.
See,
It's
that's
awful,
what,
but it would have. It would have been.
totally, and like, and the cops would be called. Like, I think to me, if you were to switch roles and make Gabrielle the protagonist, doing all the same stuff, she would by far if the effect would be that you would notice, I think, the privilege that they have as these blonde-haired, blue-eyed characters in this, like, I don't even know if it's a suburban community they live in, or it's. I think it's more of a more affluent community they live in, right? But we all know you can be black in affluent community and still be black, right?
Yeah.
So I think her character would by far not get away with half the shit that like gets away with. Even playing guitar by herself in the guitar store, like unless she's developed the repertoire with the people, I don't imagine that work there. I don't imagine she'd have a lot of time to play by herself with headphones on and not be bothered. Right?
This is so sad. Like, basically all the luxuries of living a carefree life.
Yeah,
Not even a carefree, but a carefully destructive life. Like she's destructive. Like she would kick people in the nuts. Like she was bad. Like she was a bad kid. And just like everyone was like, okay, cool.
Yeah, they're like, well, he's covering well after surgery. Thanks for asking. Like yeah, she.
Like really? Because she would be in juvenile detention center right now.
Yeah.
There would be.
No, depending on how old she is.
I think what's sad is like I think if that family was black, I don't even think those girls would have been. If these girls were black in an all white school, I don't see them get elevated at all, like to the status that they have.
Yeah, I thought about that too, and I agree. Like I don't think, because the school is so primarily white, I don't see them being elevated to the status of the popular girl. I can definitely see them. Julia's character being like, "Oh, that's the crazy bitch over there. Don't go out with her. You got to be crazy, bro."
Mm-hmm.
I could see her character, but Bianca's character, I do not see being the most popular, hottest chick in school in a school like that.
Yeah, right? And it's not even saying she isn't, right? It's just that like in what I've seen in dynamics with being in an all white school, you're always the top girls are always going to be all white, and there's always a token even in those groups.
Yeah, they're in real life.
In real life, you have the one token. So yeah, it wouldn't even play. Like I honestly, and this is so sad, but it's like I feel like if it was still the popular guy wanting to have sex with Bianca, I feel like it would feel so much more predatorial. Like it would be even more of like wanting to take advantage of like someone who doesn't have agency. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, because she's not elevated, like, because she's not the most popular girl, and you're like this white dude who's like, it just the whole tone just would completely shift if this was a black family.
Yeah.
I just, in like such a creepy way.
For sure. Like we kind of briefly touched on this conversation the other day, but like if her father was more of like an Uncle Phil character, right? And it was a black family, like he's successful, he's a doctor, he's rich. It's doctor instead of a judge or whatever, and he's rich and all that. Like, and he's like, your mom left, you're not gonna be out having sex. But which actually brings up another point, is that like and this happens in a lot of Disney movies, a lot of Shakespeare plays, right? The mother's gone, right? There's not the father's there, the mother left him for whatever reason. And we really don't even think that much about it in the story. But how would your thoughts differ if it was a black family and the mom wasn't there, right? You'd be like, oh, she must be a crackhead. Where's the mom at in this family? She's probably in jail, or she's a crackhead, or some shit like that. But you wouldn't think like, oh, like in this, I was like, oh, the mom left. She probably left the dad for a younger dude. Or
that's what I thought. Right? He's in Palm Springs right now. It's with Steve. Oh wait, no, that's
life and shit.
It's the best name I could think of. Steven. See, Steve. I need to think of it. We'll be sorry, Steven. I didn't mean for it to be so close to your name.
Yeah, Stella. Tim. That's a whole different movie. Yeah, but she's with Tim. But yeah, you thinking she's either left because her dad's an asshole, which he clearly is, right, or she left for a younger dude or something. But you're not thinking really anything too crazy negative about her. I mean, she did leave her kids.
Yeah.
So you're like, what the hell? But if it was a black family, you would probably immediately think of the worst of the mom, right?
That's true.
You'd be like, probably in jail, or she's a crackhead on the streets. That's why she's not around.
Dang.
Like,
or she would just feel, you know what I think of all the time? And what bothers me is like, I think of how just entertainment and how, because like there's certain views that white people have about black people because of news, entertainment, all that. But I also acknowledge that within myself, there's certain views I have about black people because of the news and all of these things. So it's like, even me as someone black, and how I've been influenced by the culture, the world, I instantly see this family there, and I think, wow, this is such a dark story. Like, if we were in this position, it'd be so different. And it's not to say those things aren't true, but it's like there's no part of me that could just have a carefree feeling about if this family was white. Like, it wouldn't be the same movie. It wouldn't be so cute, because like I don't know why it is. It's just, I guess it has to be because of the power structure is different, you know?
That's a good point.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, because there's a reason why we would assume if the mom had left and she was black, such negative things, right? And it's because I think a part of that is because, like, in film, that's always what the depiction is.
Yeah,
If the mother's
exactly.
not there, it is that negative role. It is this and that. And then it's like, you know, and it's the whole thing. It's like if someone white does it, right? It's just like she left, but she's kind of not villainized. Like there's no like even harsh feelings I had towards her, even though I know that was wrong.
Yeah.
I didn't. Yeah.
She left the mom leaves two daughters alone to be raised by their father, who is clearly overly strict and has no knowledge of how to raise a girl.
Is that like Daddy's Little Girls?
Or something.
Is that how Daddy's Little Girls is? The Tyler Perry?
You know, I haven't seen that one. But I assume not.
I feel like that. I haven't seen it, but I feel like that's like the whole setup too. It's like the mother is like a crackhead and the dad's like taking care of like the little girls. Oh my
God. see, but that's the thing is, it's because of perpetuated stereotypes that we think that way. Even if you are black, you'll subconsciously sometimes think about these characters in different lights given the plot of the story and who's starring in it.
So I have a question to pick your brain, your storytelling brain. Steven has a great storytelling brain. So let's say Gabrielle Union still played the role of Chastity. It's Chastity, right? Yeah. What could they have done to flesh out her character more? Like to actually give her a legit storyline and dynamic within the story.
I think one, you show her character more, but
give her more than 5 lines.
Yeah, you give her more than 5 lines. But 2, I think you actually give her like an opinion on the events that are happening, like the situations that are happening. Because like you don't really see what her opinion is on anything until that prom scene, you know, like you're saying. Like you said, when she's like, you think you're the only one that got invited? Like, you know, like you don't see how she really feels about anything. I guess when she's leaving with Joey at the party, and Bianca's like, Chastity, you're not gonna stay here with me? And she's like, girl, you had a choice and you made it. Bye. like, I mean, it's kind of real. Like, they both wanted the same thing, that dude, but Bianca wanted, and understandable, Bianca wanted the dude like to respect her in a certain way, and he is clearly a dick and only respects himself. So Bianca was like, nah, I'm not doing that. And Chastity's like, whatever, I'm taking it. But Chastity clearly sees the same thing and knows how it is. Maybe Chastity just wanted to get a nut. Like maybe she just wanted to ride home. Like
literally and figuratively.
yeah, exactly. But like Chastity clearly knew the situation, knew what she wanted. So it didn't look like Chastity was gonna go in blind and dumb to having him drop her off at home. But I think giving her character more of an opinion on the situations as they were happening, like everybody else, all the lead and secondary characters in here had like opinions on events, because you got to see what they were thinking and what their ideas were for changing the situation going forward, even if whether it did or didn't work out. But you didn't with her. She was just there to say a couple lines and to be like the listen and talk back girl. And if you gave her more of an opinion and more, it would give her more agency, I think, and you'd be able to actually see how her character thinks about the situation and her spin on it, you know.
I think they set her up wrong in the beginning. Like I think they played her dumb secondary friend when they should have played her as more of like both of them trying to like be one. Like, you know what I mean? Like have them more equals. because you played it as like Bianca's the pack leader and Chastity is the under. When later in the film you make Chastity more of an active, like, I'm gonna get what I want, which is also a character that Gabrielle Union plays a lot. Like,
yeah, she does.
delivers from Eva. She's very, I mean, the other Taming the Shrew one, she's very like that snappy character.
Yeah,
Two
bring
can
it
play
on.
Bring it on. Two can play that game. Like, she always plays these kind of attitude characters, but okay, that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think they set her, I think if they had set her up in the beginning as more, because they could have really played with this dynamic of her wanting to be number one. But I keep on thinking, anytime I think about her wanting to be number one, it totally plays into the racial thing. It's like she saw a window and she went through it. But it's like quietly, she wants to be number one. She wants to be the sophomore that's asked the senior prom. And she has to go about it and sneak your ways because it's not given to her on a platter, like Bianca, who's so beautiful. She's gorgeous. She's beautiful.
Exactly. And that's actually, that brings up a good point. Like, if you're her character in this world, you're always second fiddle, even though you feel like you are better and more talented or just better in this respect and that respect. Like, what do you do to get what you want and to be seen, right? Like, you have to go through the window when it's open, right?
Yeah.
And so I guess that is what her character does. You just don't see the reasoning behind it. So
Yeah.
it makes her look like the villain, right? Or like her and Joey are those villains, which even though you don't really see her personality like come off nearly as much of an asshole as the Joey character, but you don't see her reasoning for doing what she does. And I think that also reflects a lot to the question of what does the character, like, what is that token character's role, like, has that character's role reflect in the film as a Black person? Like, does their race even matter in this case? In this case, no, right?
Well, I think it plays, but I think a white writer, white director wouldn't see it. It takes like Black, like me as someone Black sees like, oh, she's second fiddle because of this, this, and this, and this, and this. Mm-hmm. But like, there is nothing, I don't see anything that the writer wrote acknowledging. And that goes back to the fact that like, that goes back to, and maybe this is not what but like the systematic things that are working in our world, that things are happening and they're looked at as normal when really they're, the reason they're occurring is because of race. Yeah.
Right. And we don't see that. And that's exactly what I'm getting at too, is that they don't, like, the fact that she's Black doesn't matter at all for her role in this film, because she's still just taking these actions as this character who wants the same dude that her best friend wants, apparently. But so therefore, does the film acknowledge that she's Black to begin with? No. Right. And that's my thing, is if it did acknowledge that she was Black, how would that change the character's actions, and how would that change her role, right?
You would think about, it would actually make it more interesting, like her character of like why she's making the decisions she's making. I will say that I actually feel like Kat's character would probably be a more developed Chastity. Because think about it, Kat is like someone, well, no, they're still different, but like she's a character that fully walks in like her bad decisions. She fully walks in her things that are seen as mean or whatever, but she has a reasoning behind it, right? Like, she's trying to protect her sister from what happened in the past. So it's like, that kind of would reflect that kind of depth, if given to this character, would make things make a little bit more sense. Like, why does she make her bad choices? It's because if they had acknowledged her Blackness, it's because she is the second fiddle. It's because she isn't seen, because she's like, it's so interesting. It's like, having your token play someone of color, even though you think you're just putting in someone black so that you fill the diversity quota, is actually creating a new dynamic, whether you acknowledge it or not. You may not see it as someone white because you're colorblind, but as someone black, you see why this person fits this ideal or this type. So I want to bring up I know we focus on her, but I was just too hard not to miss Daryll Mitchell's character, the teacher, who actually is super black. Like, and what are your thoughts? What did you think? Tell me your thoughts.
It's funny because I was gonna bring him up next because he's the token black male in the character, and the token black male adult, right? There's always like one black male adult in the movie that's like the neighbor or the wise old guy at the grocery store or some shit like that. So his character is interesting because I've always felt a certain way about his character watching, and I've watched this movie more times than I can count, but I wasn't ever really able to settle on what it was until watching this time to prep for this show. And I realize now it's because they make his character like very black, like extra black, but at the same time they make him angry black, and it drives me fucking crazy because obviously he knows he's a black man working at this very upper crust school with all these spoiled ass rich white kids and watching them live their lives. That would probably make me to a point just as pissed as his character is in the movie because you're like, these kids have no idea of what fucking reality is, right? And I see that, but I think his anger, and I know it's for jokes and for laughs, but his anger is misdirected at Kat's character and Kat and Joey's character, right? And at Joey's character, you figure it's warranted because he's an asshole. He's a dumbass, right? But he constantly directs it at Kat, really for no apparent fucking reason other than the fact that she's like an opinionated girl or an opinionated white girl, right? But otherwise, there doesn't seem to be any real reason for her to incur his wrath like there is for that Joey dude, right? And so that's what I think has always irked me because I'm like, the jokes are funny. He's like, get to the office. She's like, oh, those are, he tells him, I want you to pick a poem and you're going to write your own poem. She's like, oh, this is a great idea. He's like, really? She's like, yeah. He's like, you're not fucking with me. Yeah. Okay, go to the principal's office. She's like, come on. I mean, she's like, hello. And so I'm like, you're making him angry and he's just directing all this angry black man rage at this girl instead of like at the principal or the dummy that's teaching ISS, their in-school suspension, detention, or whatever that's going on over there. Like, all you okay, like, or at least even giving him a reason for the rage. Like he does touch on it when he says, if you're so angry, why don't you take that and ask her why doesn't she redirect that at asking them how come they don't want any books by black authors, right? And you're like, okay, good point, right? So he's bringing up all this, excuse me, all this woke. Like
he brings in a lot of woke. I'm curious how they wrote that character. Like I wonder if they had. That's why I want to read the original script.
Yeah,
because I want to see if those were the lines that were written. Because like I totally agree what you're saying, and I didn't see that. But I remember when I saw him, I was like, oh, this feels like a black man in a movie. Like it didn't feel like a black man reading some white man's lines. Like no. I was like, did they ask who? Like, did he go and he goes, oh, I'll work it out for you. I got this. Yeah. I know how to say this stuff. Because it felt like I was like, okay. And then he came with the wokeness. He was like, why are all these books? But you make such a good point. He is very aggressive. Like one, Joey, okay, he's a dumbass. But he's very aggressive towards Kat. But it doesn't, like, she doesn't give, it's not exactly warranted. She just seems like a smart ass kid. Which actually, in real life, he'd be like, that's really good, Kat. Like, you're right.
You're the only fucking student that I like in here because you're the one that's actively involved. You're the one that knows it, and you're actually the one that is challenging what the lesson plan is, right? Which is what you want kids to actually be able to think critically. And she's the only one that's actually challenging like the patriarchy and a lot of the topics that they bring up. And he's like, oh, you're challenging this? Go to the principal's office. Like,
yeah, it's weird now that I think about it.
Excuse me. It's written by two women, so I definitely think
two white women,
Yeah. And I think that's the reason it's got such a strong feminist backbone to it. which is great. But the fact that like the person, and I guess a lot of the men in here actually do really push against like Kat's independence, like
Mm.
every man in here. But having the teacher that's teaching her the poems and teaching about all this, that's actually wants them to challenge the status quo, be the black male angry teacher. That's, I think, what irked me so much, because Kat brought up she really only had good points in that class, and it looked like to me she would be the one student that is the most engaged, but at the same time, he still just sent her to principal's office all the time. And I get that you are trying to reinforce the fact that she's kind of like the bad girl troublemaker,
Hmm.
but clearly she pays attention to her studies, so she's not failing at school. She's not that type of a bad girl, right? She just is
Yeah.
socially, and she's just anti-social.
So why do you
Right.
think they made him angry?
I think honestly, I think it's for the sake of jokes, which it just leads to another trope, right? The angry black man trope that you see all the fucking time that gets so stale and old. But I think that's really it, was just to make it for the jokes, because it's funny seeing him get angry at Joey, and I guess it's supposed to be funny seeing him get angry at Kat as well. But
Mm.
really, it's just like, why now? It takes away. I think that takes away from the strength of his argument when he's angry at the dumb characters for being dumb, and then just makes it look like he's angry for no reason when he's angry at the good characters for being good.
That makes a good point. And that's why you're smarter than me, Steven.
No, I'm not. I'm not. I just talk more.
No, that's a good point. I never thought of that, because I really enjoy that character,
Me
because
too.
and I wonder if they wrote him in there because they're like, is it like the liberal white women who write that one woke black character? Like they want to show you that they get it, that they know the system. And so they're like, we're going to give you this educated teacher who's schooling these white kids. Like, is this just like pandering to like the like their own wokeness to show you that they're down? I don't know.
I mean, I assume it was, especially because he busts into a rap when he's reading Shakespeare. They have
He did
there's
the
a lot.
first Hamilton. He
He
did the
Yeah,
first.
he did. This was pre Hamilton. You're right. Oh my gosh, it is pre Hamilton for sure. But I noticed, they have a lot of characters that try to be down, quote unquote,
Right.
down, right? The dad tries to prove to Bianca how down he is when he's like, "I know the 411, I know what's up." Like you're not gonna go out and get pregnant, get jiggy with it by some guy in a hot rod, and she's like, "What's a hot rod?" Like clearly they use the dialect of the day and the language of the day, and even the two nerd characters, Joseph Gordon-Levitt's and the other guy's character. Even they talk a few times with Patrick Verona, uh, who's Heath Ledger's character, and they're using like a lot of, they're trying to be hip, which means they try to use this urban slang a few times. But so I think the writers are clearly like liberal woke, and this is pre-term woke, but woke enough to like use that slang to be down and show that the characters are trying to be down. But I just think it's interesting that his character is overboard on the urban wokeness.
Yeah, I mean, and he felt black. Like I was like, they wrote
Hmm.
this for a black man. I
Hmm.
can't say the same for one thing about this movie.
God, I can't say the same
I
for
can't. Everyone else, they
Chastity,
listen.
but
I will say this: whoever did casting, they were very. I noticed they did try to always have diversity. Like even when the film opens, like there's the four girls in the car next to cat cars, three white girls, and there's one black girl in the back. You got your
hmm
one token.
hmm
Then when they had the scene where they're interviewing the guys to date Kat, it's all white guys and one black guy.
hmm
Like they make it a point to always drop in the black characters. They ain't never got no lines,
no,
but
but
like they
you
try to
see,
do one, or like Joey's best friends are two black guys.
and they're twins too.
Are they
Because
twins?
yeah, I was trying to suss out. I was like, are they black? Are they Puerto Rican?
I
Or
thought they.
what?
I was like, maybe he's Puerto Rican. I said, come on, y'all better trifecta this diversity.
I was like, what is? I was like, what are these dudes? But I mean, there's some type of Dominican, Puerto Rican, or Afro Latin, I assume.
Some.
But they but they have like zero lines, right? Like they're just there to kind of look intimidating with Joey and be the goons, right?
They're the goons. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, they are.
That's it.
Dang.
But I noticed that too. I was like, huh, okay, okay. Like and I'm trying to remember the Bogey Lowenstein and the NBA crew if they had any diversity in
No,
there.
they didn't. I
Yeah.
remember when they went, I was looking for us the whole movie. I was looking. That table, they didn't have any. They might have had, I think, someone Asian or something at that table, but
Yeah, I've
everyone
seen.
was, there was no black people in that group.
Yeah, I was trying. I think you're right. I think you're right because I was, I was looking and I was like, no, I think there was an Asian guy, but that was, yeah, that was it. And we'll say Asian does count as diverse,
It
but
does. If it's
it's
not
funny.
white, but we're looking for the
We're looking
for the
for the
black
element,
folks.
right?
Yeah.
And plus, I mean, that leads to a whole other token discussion, right? Because when they want to insert diversity in the smart crowd, they'll throw in an Asian or an Indian, right?
Right. Right.
But which is Asian too, but you know what I'm saying? They'll
I
throw
know what you're
in
saying. Like when it comes to
they'll when it comes
visual,
to yeah, when it
yeah,
comes to the smart kids, that's their diversity, right?
yeah,
When it comes to the street tough kids, then you throw in the token black
yeah.
or the popular kids.
This movie is very. I was like, this is. I just. I don't remember it being. I mean, I loved it always when I was 13, but I was 13. So you know, when you're 13, you love like everything. But there's a lot of like things they kind of put in here. Like this is just a side I wanted to mention. Like some like I want to hear like your three things that like aside from the token that you saw that was interesting about this film. Like for me was the not kissing her while she was drunk, which was
Yeah,
actually a consent thing. Like he
very
doesn't
much.
kiss her because she's even though she was more sobered up, but he
Hmm.
didn't want to kiss her because she was drunk.
Yeah,
And it wasn't like any guilt. He just didn't want to do that. I thought that was really interesting. Like,
I,
you know,
I did too. I did too, and I noticed that when I first saw it, and it. I think it just reverberates even more now. Like it was very much a consent thing, and that was shit. This is '99.
yeah. And the girl was really upset about it, but it was actually a very mature, like, oh,
Adult thing to do, like
yeah,
a mature respective or
you know.
respecting thing to do. Like,
I wouldn't even, you know, I don't even know if that was like, that's like above and beyond. Cause like some
yeah,
people be like, well, you know, cause I do think that's a really bit of a gray area, but for him to make that choice, I was like, that's very like, wow. Like that's like extreme. Like, I don't care if you even initiate it. It's just
hmm
not going to happen. Okay. My other thing, Heath Ledger and the cops, when he's singing the song and the cops
yeah,
come,
yeah,
if he was black,
yeah, yeah. Oh, they would have already started beat. If nothing else, they'd pepper sprayed his ass. But
he smacked the cop on the butt. I
yeah,
said,
running, running past them, doubling back, running past them again.
if Heath was
Yeah,
if if he was black, that would.
then
And
he would have
then
been shot at.
the other thing that like stood out to me was kind of weird, and this comes, I think it comes back to the thing about the father trying to like preserve the daughter's like virginity, was when they were talking about that 15-year-old girl.
I made a note about that too.
what did
Yeah,
you what did you what did you think about that?
I, I. That was one of the first things I noticed because again, maybe it's just looking through it through a different lens now that I'm older. But I noticed that too. It's clearly it's supposed to be a joke, right? It's the
Right.
punchline, but to me that also reflects their privilege again because he's like, I had to deliver twins to a 15-year-old girl last night. You know what she said to me? And Bianca's immediate reply is, "I'm a crack whore. You should have had made my skeezy boyfriend wear a condom." And you're like, and at the time it's oh ha 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 a bunch of jokes, but now I'm like, wait a minute, like why she gotta be a crack whore because she the 15-year-old girl that had a baby, right? Like
Yeah.
that shows the disconnect between the girls that live in this world and like what's the rest of the world, right? They
Yeah.
clearly know teen pregnancy is a thing with numbers that rise just as high in suburb a lot of suburban areas and stuff like that. And the ones that don't, it's because they have more access to things like abortion and birth control and shit.
Also, why she got to be a crack whore?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Why crack? Like, just because someone is 15 who've gotten pregnant, that doesn't make them like this skeezy. Like, it was just such a kind of demonizing of
By
like
far.
of
Totally.
that
Totally.
young. Like, y'all are like, that's bad. Y'all gonna say that about a 15-year-old girl?
Yeah, y'all exactly. When everybody knows 15-year-old girls make plenty of mistakes. Anybody at 15 does, right? And to me, that's immediately jumped out. I was like, why she gotta be a crack whore with a skeezy boyfriend? Like, people make fucking mistakes, and if you're a teenager, you're gonna make a lot of them.
And Julia Stiles' character had sex when she was 14 or 15.
Yeah, she didn't get pregnant, but it was a skeezy guy, and
so skeezy. Yeah,
she doesn't mention that at all when she finds that information out.
No,
but that definitely stood out to me too.
Did you have? Was there anything else that like stood out to you, or like thoughts you had, or whatever?
It stood out to me that honestly Heath Ledger's character was pretty much just like a gentleman all around, right? Yeah. Not only did he not kiss her when she was drunk, but he was trying to kind of take care of her. He gave Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character this really great, like still to this day, kind of inspiring speech. Like he's like, don't ever let anybody tell you don't deserve what you want. Like, and if you really care for her, like go for it. Don't let somebody else stand in the way. And you're like, wow, okay, that's really good advice to get from a dude that's just like buddying up to this little nerd, and initially like is drilling holes in a textbook and doesn't want anything to do with them, right? Like I noticed it's a really motivational speech for somebody of Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, of his stature, like his social class at that school. That's like a really perfect speech to give his character to help motivate him to that next stage of his character growth. But yeah, I think his character in general like always picks the high ground, which is really, I mean, other than his initial choice to like take the girl out for $20, which I didn't know I'm like, maybe.
Oh my God, that was low, right?
I'm like, $20, that's it. Then he bumps up to 50, but I'm still like, shit, that's it? $50? I
didn't realize how little money that was. Like,
yeah.
Like $20.
I know gas was cheaper in '99, but man, I was like in high school, I guess you don't have a job, $50 is a big deal, but I can see a high schooler doing that shit for $50 now. Yeah.
I thought that I was like, wow, that's like $20 just felt really low. But yeah. 50 is more, $50 take her out. Okay. But when at first I was like $20, that's it? We don't do, but it came out. No, I was yeah, Heath Ledger had a nice character. Like shout out to Heath Ledger. He's like, yeah. He was great in that. There's a lot of like great actors in this, like Julia Stiles, Heath Ledger, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, the Gabrielle Union. Who knows where Bianca is now? No offense. You know what? I'm gonna give her flowers because she was Alex Mack. She was, and she did a great job in that. I used to watch that show. Yeah. And she's just not gorgeous. Okay, you're just not going to like tell me she's this beautiful, gorgeous thing. She was trash, y'all. She was trash in that movie. Okay. Her character was. I'll say her character was annoying in the movie, right? Because she kept going back and forth, and you see that she was using Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character for her own ends and everything. And this movie, I will say, and this is Shakespeare's stories in general, a lot of times this movie is characters using other characters for their own ends, and then they get found out and they either change or they double down on their stupidness or whatever. So her character does seem to change a bit in this, but she is certainly a not the most likable character in the movie. Honestly, I feel like the reason her character is even charming, because I overall liked her, was because of the actor who played her. Like I like Larissa. Yeah, I think she's a cool actress, and also like what the screenwriters did that was good is that they had her acknowledge her faults in the car. Like when he was like calling her out and he was like, you use me, da da da, and she acknowledges it. So it makes you like see her have this kind of come to Jesus moment. But I will still say, because I think her and him are the villain, they never have the come to Jesus moment about her like being the reason for this trick on her sister. About her being the reason that the whole scheme is happening is her fault. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. That she is the inciting motivation to get this all to happen. Yeah. She is the villain, not Chastity. Chastity did what she had to do at the end of the day. Chastity did, and she did what she wanted to do, which I definitely admire, because a lot of the other characters in here, and I will say, women doing what they want to do
when they want to do it and with whom they want to do it does seem to be a prevailing theme in this film or character trait, which I do really like because you don't always see that.
Mhm.
But Chastity, especially, seems to do what she wants to do, how she wants to do it. Like, so you can't get mad at that. Like her character, they could have provided more cultural relevance to her character and given her more depth, but her character definitely was doing what she wanted to do when she wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that you really just need to emphasize that more and bring it out. Because I'm thinking if I'm her, I'm going home and she's like, "Oh, you don't understand. You don't have a Prada bag." I'm going home thinking, "How come I can't have a Prada bag too?" Like looking at all this stuff and thinking, my parents are barely scraping by to get me into the school in the first place. I should probably stop paying attention to this old ass girl. Like, I don't know her character story, but I can see they could have definitely worked that in
11
better.
Things I Hate About You, Chastity
Yeah,
story.
yeah, yeah, the Chastity story.
All right. Cool. So that's all I got. We didn't ever introduce ourselves.
We did not.
We did not. I'm Donna. I'm Donna. I'm from Texas. My background is in film and television. I went to USC for film school. I did screenwriting at UT, and right now I'm figuring out my life, which is fun. It's always fun as a creative. So it's the best time of my life. I love crying every day. It's great. It's great. I use it as motivation. The more tears, I eat them, because I'm hungry, because I'm a creative. So that's that's where I am. What about you, Steven?
Well, I think you're definitely not the only one crying and eating all their tears right now during the time we're living in. As you probably half the world, so at least you're not alone there.
Better than ramen.
That's right. Better than, I don't know. I love ramen, but I'm Stephen DeBose. I am a writer, producer based out of Austin, Texas. I was the screenwriting competition director at the Austin Film Festival, and I enjoy stories of all shapes and sizes and types. And I'm currently working on a couple of projects that hopefully I will be able to get sold and shot. But regardless, I'm spending a lot of time writing right now and a lot of time reading and catching up on all the TV shows and movies I've missed over the past few years, helping other people get their scripts sold or get signed. So
time for you to walk into the light.
That's right.
Time for you to let it go. Like he said, don't ever let anyone tell you that you don't deserve. I'm getting the speech wrong. Don't ever let anyone tell you that you don't deserve something. If you want it, go for it.
Okay. Go for it.
So I was trying to think of the note we can leave on. Here's the note. What is something you would want to recommend to someone to watch ASAP? Or what are you watching? Or what's the go check this out?
I've been recommending to a lot of people lately that they see The Old Guard on Netflix. And for multiple reasons, for me personally, as a sci-fi fantasy fan, as a blurred, as it were, and for those of you that don't know, that's a black nerd.
I love
it. I think it is great because for me, it incorporates a lot of mythology and fantasy, but in just a modern action film with a lot of badass fight scenes. But it also captures the characters really well. It's got very strong female characters in it, strong minority characters in it, strong gay characters in it, and it also has just a lot of really fun action. The plot is strong. The characters have a lot of great motivations, and I like that it incorporates a lot of like ancient mythology that you'll see in film sometimes, like even Hancock touched on a little bit with legends and myths that they don't explore in depth, but they just put a sprinkle enough in the film to keep sci-fi fantasy nerds invested. And it's directed by a black woman, Gina Prince Bythewood. And I would not have ever guessed that she'd do something like this after seeing Love and Basketball, but I'm so fucking happy she did, man. I love it.
That's so cool.
promoting it to a lot of people.
So I have been telling people over and over again to watch I May Destroy You. I listen, my HBO 7-day trial went out, so I have to catch the last 2 episodes at another time. But what I've seen so far, okay, I gotta just get a new email and I'm gonna make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
But what I absolutely love it, and I think, you know, the first like episode or 2, I was like, but like as you get in, and as with a lot of shows, it really starts picking up. But I think what's so genius about the show is it explores how we as people exploit sex and sexuality. It's just even in situations when you watch it that are consensual, they're actually not to a certain degree, because people will use your consent to you. Like there's a scene in there where this girl has a threesome and she wanted to have it with the other 2 guys, but what she didn't know, and the guys played her, is that they had actually known each other. And like they played it like they didn't know each other, and it's like they kind of set her up in a way to use her to have this. So it over and over again, if you watch every like interaction, it's constantly about the using, like people using each other. The main one is seeing people use each other for their sex, for sexual pleasure, but also like there are elements of people using each other for race.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's like you see that theme explored in the big and in the super small. Like this guy meets this girl who loves black guys. Like it just, you just see it work, and he's with her because he is gay and he wants to try other. So it's like everyone's sexually using and exploiting each other. And even in consensual situations, it's just, there's such an exploit. It just explores how we exploit sex so much, and it's just everyday life. Yeah, it's so interesting.
Is it half hour or an hour?
It's a half hour.
Half hour?
And it's I'm going blank right now. I think it's Michelle Cole. Cole. How do you say her name? Like French or something, isn't it? I'm saying it wrong, but she's great.
It is. She's British though, right?
Yeah.
It's
Michelle Cole. I may destroy.
No, I think you're right.
Michelle,
yeah. Michaela Cole.
Y'all know who we're talking about. But I would say go watch that ASAP and I would say going into it looking through the lens of like, how is sexuality, how is sex, even in consensual situations, exploiting each other. Like it's really good. So that's it.
I heard her talk about that on Terry Gross's show, and she did talk about how she wrote it after this like kind of a true life situation like that happened to her, right? Where she got drugged and somebody did, I think, rape her, and so she wrote it after that, like as part of the dealing with the trauma. Wow. So knowing that going into watching, I think it's gonna, for me at least, inform even more of the story that she tells with that. So
it's great.
So that tonight.
Yeah, it's great. So yeah, that's it, you guys.
Nice.
Have a good day. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in, you guys, and we'll see you next time.